this one will hopefully be finishing on a high. Our previous one was about how to attract talent, and this one is about retaining it. So it's going to be a good one. So yeah, let us know where you're from, guys. We want to, as James said, make this as interactive as possible. Get your viewpoints, answer any questions throughout, and make it, really collaborative and conversational as well. So get your name in the comments box and get any points in there that you want us to pick up throughout the session as well. So we've got them ahead of time.
Yeah, perhaps you're worrying about how you're going to retain your staff at the moment. If you are, then this is a great session for you. I think it's fair to say that retention is a hot topic right now. It's pretty clear that the recruitment market is in a different position right now to maybe where it has been for the last couple of years. But it's one that's really interesting. And actually, I have these conversations with people every single day because almost everybody asks, what's the market looking like right now? And look, I think on one hand, you have people that are looking for jobs. You have obviously the cost of living has gone up substantially over the last few months, and people are needing to change jobs to get a salary increase to just have the same lifestyle that they've had for the last few years. But on the other hand, you have people that are obviously looking for security and stability. It's a very important topic for a lot of people, so they're not looking to change jobs. But I think that the general feeling is that we are moving away from a candidate-driven market that we've seen in the last 2 to 3 years. But that being said, I really do think I really do believe, and I think it's really important that employers don't get too relaxed. You can't just I can't talk today. You can't just take it for a given that your employees will stay just for security, because there are companies out there hiring and there are good salaries out there as well. And I would be confident saying it's about a 50-50 split right now when it comes to people looking versus people leaving.
Yeah.
How are you finding your conversations, Jess?
Yeah, definitely. Much of the same. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Most commonly asked question at the moment is, what is the market looking like? I think you're right. It's impacted by things that are going on within the economy and people wanting stability and security. And we can only go on what we can predict is going to happen as well. But yeah, certainly, like, a lot of conversations I'm having are focused around what we expect to happen over the coming months. A lot of people are still looking quite short term, but people are now starting to look at long term. And I really think that's where, when you're hiring, whether you are a business owner or you work within a business and you're responsible for it, looking long term is really, really important. And looking at how you're retaining your current staff is really important, because hiring is expensive, right? Whether you do it internally, whether you do it externally, use an agency or an external partner, it's expensive, not just from a financial perspective, but from a time perspective as well. So keeping your talent is going to be your best cost saving strategy. And I think it's really important, leading on, is to discuss the importance of company culture in retention. According to a survey done by Glassdoor, 65% of employees say that company culture is the main reason they stay in their job. Now, that's a really, really high percentage. And in fact, 71% would start looking for a new opportunity if their culture deteriorates. And that is even higher, which, it goes hand in hand. I can safely say, and James, I'm sure you can as well, majority of the candidates that I work with who are looking for something new, when I ask them, why are you looking? What's driving you? It's either money or it's culture. And, it needs to be taken really seriously, the culture of businesses, because, salary is one thing, but job satisfaction is another. And, I can't express how important it is that company cultures are really looked upon and reviewed consistently to ensure that companies are retaining their staff. From an employer's perspective, having a good company culture reduces your turnover, hopefully will give you increased productivity and performance of your team, but also create a healthy environment that people want to stay in. We talked about this in our last live, actually, with regards to attracting talent. And it can also help you attract the talent, but it more importantly helps you retain it. So, I express that company culture needs to be a top priority for you when it comes to attracting, but more importantly, retaining staff.
I think that's echoed from a lot of the meetings that I've had this year, going out to client offices and getting some FaceTime with people. The offices have been really quiet, and almost one of the first questions people have asked me is, what are companies doing around encouraging people back into the workplace? So I naturally ask them why they're looking to do so, and every single time it's been, we're worried that people working from home full time is impacting our culture. And so this is real world situations happening across all the majority of our clients who have been forced into a hybrid approach, in some cases even more than hybrid, in fully working from home. Then they're not saying that they're going to force people back in the office, but they're looking at, okay, what can be done now to make sure we keep our culture, because it's so important to us. It's so important to why these people join the business. But do we need to enforce people back in the office maybe once a week, once a month? Obviously, it's the $1 million question, right?
It is.
No one actually knows the answer, but it's a real hot topic right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go on to that in a little bit more detail in a few minutes, but really, really hot topic at the moment for sure. And I think one that has been on the radar for, for the past 18 months, really, as we've started to ease out of the pandemic and back into a more working office environment for some people. But definitely a big topic. And I think will still be for a couple of years, to be honest.
Yeah, and there was a few bigger brands, very well-known brands. We won't name drop them right now, but they were talking about forcing their staff back in at least 4, if not 5 days a week. And it's safe to say our phones were very busy in January when that news hit the headlines. I don't know if it's happened or not, but something to not do is do not force your staff into doing something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So we spoke a bit about culture when it comes to retention, and that's really important. I also think looking at burnout is really important. It's something that often gets overlooked. So in a recent survey from Gallup, who are a well-known workplace consultancy, 76% of employees say they experience burnout at work. 76, that number is so high. I was amazed.
High.
I mean, I feel like I know a lot of people that work hard. I hope they've not been burnt out, because if they have, they haven't said anything. But that number is high, and not just that number, but when you're looking at that percentage of people that experience burnout, you can imagine the amount of more people that, due to burnout, will consider new opportunities. I think the figure's up to double the amount of people will consider changing jobs due to burnout. And another figure that's astonishingly high is 63% of those people will also likely be taking more sick days due to burnout. Now, obviously, retention is one thing, but also productivity within your employees as well as morale and energy in the office, productivity, all that kind of stuff is so important. So I think something that you can really be looking at is, okay, how overworked are my employees right now? If you feel like the answer is too much, then look, there's some things that you can do, and it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to come with a huge cost to the business. Simple things like enforcing lunch breaks. One of our clients has actually put a rule in place this year to say you are not allowed to take meetings during your lunch break, and actually you have to take a lunch break, which I think is a really good idea. It's so easy for all of us, and many of us, I'm sure, do it regularly. Oh, well, I'll do that in lunch because I've got a bit of time for it then. And suddenly your lunch breaks becomes 10 minutes and you're eating your sandwich whilst you're doing your work. And it's not good. Yes, you can do it here and there for a little bit, but actually sustaining that for a long period of time whilst also producing good quality work to tight timescales is tough. You need a break. Other things you can do is just enforce 10 to 15 minute sessions away from the desk, even do quite cool things like walking meetings where you get out of the office and walk. Obviously, that means you need to be in the office in the first place, or everyone working remotely and doing it via phone. But there's some really cool things you can do just to break up the day and ease that workload. If possible, hire another person. It's not always that straightforward, but if the workload is that high, then you're just going to lose your staff if it's unrealistic. So look to hire somebody, whether it be a freelancer or a full-time employee, just to ease that workload.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as companies, hiring managers, and employers actually been able to be aware of that is really important, and limiting those getting to burnout, because that will ultimately lead you to losing staff. And if you want to retain them, particularly when it can be a candidate short market, you want to retain your staff, and being able to spot burnout before it happens will be really, really crucial for that not happening. But Chris, you've got a good comment here. You put you're a freelancer and you've been working from Amsterdam for 2.5 years now. You've got colleagues in Poland, Ukraine, Mexico, USA, and Singapore, and the culture is great. Love that. Like, that is really great to hear. Like, I'd be interested to know, like, what do you actively do, or what does the business actively do to kind of keep that culture great and keep it alive? There's quite a lot of conflicting interest with regards to flexible and hybrid working and all of that type of thing at the moment, and there are companies, some larger brands who have, over recent times started to, I wouldn't say enforce, but go back to 5 days in the office, and they've lost a huge amount of staff because the needs and the desires of most people nowadays is that flexibility. But of course, companies don't want to lose out on that culture. So Chris, I'd love to know what things have been put in place for the team that's helped keeping that culture alive, because that's really great to hear.
Definitely, yeah. Is there anything that they're doing? Because it's not just about being in the office, I guess, but also when you're in the office, you can do more things. You can go for lunches, you can have some drinks, you can do some games. I don't know, you can just do like team bonding activities much easier when you're all in the same location. So Chris, is your business doing anything where you can incorporate some of that stuff whilst being in different countries? Because I think that's also equally interesting, to anyone that's listening, but also to us as well, because we get asked these questions on a regular basis, and hey, if there's stuff that's working, then we'd like to know about it.
Definitely. And there's quite a few time zones to be working with there as well. So do let us know. But more on that topic of that kind of conflicting of interest with flexi, hybrid working from home, how much remote do people offer nowadays? But actually, 85% of people currently working from home would like a hybrid approach to their work location in the future, because actually there's a high amount, there's 40% of businesses expect the majority of their workforce to be in the office moving forward. Now, that has obviously increased and crept up since everyone's gone from being pretty much remote 100% of the time to going back into the office. And there's pros and cons to it, right? I think what there is needed is a level of trust within the business that starts from the top to ensure that deliverables are being met, performance is there, but actually at the heart of it, everyone is adding value, and that value is being seen. From a candidate's perspective, we've had this conversation a million times over the past few years. That saving the money and time on a commute increases productivity and performance. It also allows for better work-life balance. Again, creeping into that culture of a business, and all of these things help retain your staff. And ultimately, I think it is better to achieve a work-life balance so that you avoid your staff going into burnout, and actually retaining it, because 80% of employees have said to a survey they would like to continue to work from home at least some of the time. Now, that doesn't mean all of the time. I think there is a balance to be found for sure. I think there's arguments to say being in the same room as your colleagues adds value. It helps with that bonding, that relationship development. Not even necessarily for delivering work, but genuinely just to, be with the people that you're working with and know who they are. But also having that time to, flex your hours, work from home also helps increase that kind of productivity and culture as a business. Really interested to know if anybody is experiencing, their workforce going back into the office, and they're thinking of now moving on because of that. But also, if you are an employer, what your thoughts are on being in the office versus at home, or that balance. Because we've certainly experienced those. Forcing more time in the office has actually had a knock-on effect on the retention of their staff, and then thus leads to having to fill those gaps again, which takes a lot of time and money as well.
I think one of the challenges you have as well is when you're not together regularly, it's hard to have those conversations from an employee to an employer, because whereas you might say, can I grab you for 5 minutes? Oh, Joe, I'm actually not that happy about this. If you've got to set up a meeting with somebody to have what would normally be a quick kind of off the cuff chat, a lot of people, and I know this because I've been told this from many people over the phone, they get put off doing it because they feel like it becomes a bigger issue than it needs to be. And then what happens with that then impacts your culture, because that then causes those conversations to not get had. So that what is possibly a really small instance can actually spiral quite fast into becoming a bigger one. So I mean, that's something that maybe can be overlooked. It's not just a case of, oh, we want them in the office, not in the office, etc. But actually it's just these small conversational points that maybe don't happen that do spiral up into something much larger, about maybe issues, or about maybe the workload, or about maybe something with technology. I'm not really sure. It could be anything.
Yeah, definitely. And even being able to just get things off your chest to make you feel better can be limited as well when you're not necessarily in there. It's difficult to read between the lines with conversations as well sometimes. But yeah, all of this kind of leads back to really what is the culture of the business, and is the balance there to to limit, people looking elsewhere because of small issues that could be made into bigger ones when they don't need to be. But there are lots of things that can help with the retention, and there come in a number of things.
I was hoping that Chris might have shared some of his ideas by now, but maybe the list is just really, really long and he's still typing away.
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, it would be good if you could share some of that, Chris, because it's great. It's great to hear.
Yeah, I think that would be great insight for others as well who've joined and who might want to watch this back as well. Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
You can get it in.
Sure. But I think we should probably talk a little bit about maybe what a good retention strategy might look like, because ultimately we spoke about some of the points so far, but actually if you're an employer right now, you're thinking, okay, well, what can I do? What sort of strategy can I put in place to help retain my staff? And I think there's a couple of things that stand out. I'm going to talk a bit about the perks and what have you, and how we've seen these develop over the last sort of 5 years or so, and then Jess can talk about something else really, really interesting afterwards. But for me, when I first moved into recruitment, you join a company and you might get a bonus if you're lucky. You get a pension. At some pensions were sort of taken away, and obviously we now have the standard pension that is back with us. In some cases, businesses might offer a slightly bigger pension, often minimal holiday or just above. But in the last 5 years, we've seen companies go above and beyond in terms of their ability to give their employees a good package, and that's not just they pay them more money, they give them bigger pensions, bigger bonuses, etc. There's things like extra days off over Christmas that don't come out of your holiday allowance. In some cases, that can be 6 to 8 days, plus the 25 days, plus the bank holidays. That's like 2 months off paid every year. Happy days. You also get increased training budgets. So we worked with a number of clients over the last couple of years that have had training budgets anywhere between £500 and £2,500, which can be spent on personal training improvements. They have business training improvements that's completely separate and part of a different budget. Also looking at things like mental health awareness and budgets and support for that, well-being days, even things like yoga and PT classes on a weekly basis. Now, some of these are quite expensive, some of them not so much. So there was one really cool company we worked with. They actually gave their staff a holiday. They went on a week's retreat where they would do like boot camps and workshops and little bits of work here and there. But they went to places like Morocco and Thailand and Greece. How cool is that? Taking your whole business to Morocco for a week, like happy days. Maybe we should take that as well.
Yeah, take a note.
Yeah, maybe you're listening. But look, I think my point is you can be creative with some of this, and actually if you're looking at retention and employee well-being and what have you, some of the cheaper ones, they're like maybe getting the yoga instructor in, or a PT class, or an exercise type class in your lunch break or your morning, can go a long way into the employee morale. which then has a much bigger impact on your attention. And if you've got deep pockets, then hey, I'm sure holiday won't go amiss for your staff.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are much more cost-effective ways of doing things as well. Even just, small team building exercises can really make a big impact. I think it all comes back to, what is being done and what more could be done. And you might not have any more that you can do at this point in time. But I think it's always understanding, especially if you're trying to scale as a business as well. You can only scale as well if you have got a team that's going to help you do that. So yeah, super important. But we touched upon this in our last live actually, and kind of the importance of your kind of employer value proposition. Such a big thing. And, a lot of companies will, really invest into what they're doing to know what that is. And it's more than just what your employees get in their paycheck. I think we've kind of covered that off enough in this session to kind of get that point across. But employees want to feel like they're adding value and that they serve a purpose for the company they work for. And, again, that kind of goes back to some of the drivers for people looking to move away is they don't really feel like they've got that purpose anymore, that they don't know what value they're really adding. So it can just be really simple things like the recognition for their performance of their work that goes a long way. Then that might not be a financial element, that might not be by means of a bonus, but having reviews and saying, look, you've done a really great job. But something that's really interesting, and I don't know how much this is done, within businesses. It's certainly something we do here at Simply Commerce, but every quarter, you can put out a survey to the whole business, and you can really understand how those employees and teams are feeling, and that can cover off things like, okay, how do they believe in the culture? Do they enjoy working there? Can they see themselves working here within the next 12 months, next 2 years? You can really tailor those questions to your personal business, but what it can do is really give you insight into what employees are really thinking and feeling as well, most importantly. Though you can do these as frequently as you like. You might do them once a year, twice a year. We do them quarterly because for us in our line of work, quarters can differ quite significantly. But again, something that can be implemented in quite a short space of time are these types of surveys, and they can be anonymous, they could not be. I'm sure a lot of people, when they are anonymous, are more likely to be a bit more truthful of how they're really feeling. But what you'll get back from that, the insight you'll get back from that, is really how your employees are feeling, and also gives them an opportunity to voice and say how they feel. That might already happen in your business in a different format, but this is a really simple way that can be implemented to, one, make sure that you are recognizing EVP, but also increasing it within the business as well, and making people feel like their voices, their opinions, their thoughts and feelings are heard and listened to. And then you can action things off the back of those as well. And it might be things to do around culture, things to do around the package, training, support. And it is also an opportunity for the team to bring new ideas as well. So yeah, if you've not already got something like this set up, definitely recommend doing it. If anybody tuning in had something like this within their business, has completed a survey, is thinking of rolling one out, please let us know how that's gone for you and what the results are if you've already done it. Because I think it's a really simple way of making sure that your EVP is a priority within your business.
Yeah, I think not only does it show that you care about it as an employer, which I think is really, really important, it gives your employees a chance to voice their opinion, for you to listen and then potentially take action as well. As Jess said, a lot of these are done anonymously. So actually the employees will be honest, you would hope, for the most part, and gives you a chance to reflect. And I think ultimately reflection is really important when it comes to how your employees are really feeling versus how you think they're feeling. And that will enable you to take your business to the next level. So something that we do quarterly, as you said, the feedback on it has been really great. And as a business, we've taken things from it every quarter that we've rolled out it. Doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. And yeah, just on that note, if you don't know what to do, then look, ours is by no means a work of art, but get in touch and we'll be more than happy to talk you through what we do internally and how we assess it and the questions that we ask, and see if we can help you roll it out as well.
Definitely. I think super important, and really something simple just to add on that point. If you have got a lot of your team working remote, or maybe in even different countries, don't come to the office that much, a really simple way of engaging them into this EVP program, and promoting it from within as well, just goes back to the engagement you're going to get from your team, which is going to massively help with your retention for sure. So yeah, if you've got questions, want to know how to set one up, what sort of questions to ask, we're always happy to help. And if anybody has done them and I've got good feedback from questions, please do share. Somebody else who's tuning into this might take some value from that as well.
All right. So has anyone that's tuning in ever left a company with maybe burnout or something similar being one of the primary reasons as to why you started looking for a new position in the first place? Let's see what's happening there. I'm sure there's a couple of you guys. Some of those stats quoted earlier, there's got to be at least a couple.
Yeah, for sure.
And on that note, has anyone got any questions? We've sort of drawn towards the end of what we wanted to talk about today. Hopefully you found it beneficial. We're going to hang around for a couple of minutes. So if you've got any questions about anything that's been discussed, get them in the box ASAP and we'll do our best to get them answered. Also, share some feedback. How have you found the show? Put your thumbs up if you've enjoyed it and you've taken something from it. Hopefully don't put your thumbs down. We don't like that. But this is our last one of the series. I think it's been great. I think we've covered some really good content over the last sort of 4 or 5 months, Jess.
Definitely.
Some focusing more on candidates, trying to help them with their search for work, optimizing their LinkedIn page and their job search, and others focus more for companies trying to attract and retain staff.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a journey for sure. And I'd still love to know those who have joined us along the way. So make sure you get in the comments. Do really want to know. And, all of these are recorded, so you can go back right to the very first one. They're all on our page. They will still be they'll still be promoted, so you can go back and watch them all if you've missed a few. They're all really interesting, and hopefully take something from them. So yeah, please go rewatch the previous ones if you've missed them. Hopefully we'll be back soon with the next series.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for us then. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon, guys. Bye.